So just how worried were Biden aides before the former president's disastrous debate last summer? According to Ron Klain, his chief of staff, his concerns could not be overstated. The former Biden chief of staff spoke to the journalist Chris Whipple for his new book that details last year's unconventional race. And just 4 days before the debate, Klain recalled that Biden didn't know what Trump had been saying and couldn't grasp what the back and forth of the campaign was. And at his first meeting with Biden for debate prep, quote, Klain was startled. He'd never seen Biden so exhausted and so out of it. Biden was unaware of what was happening in his own campaign. Halfway through the session, the president excused himself and went off to sit by the pool. In a statement to CNN, Klain said the excerpts from the book distorted his meaning. He says, I had no doubts then or now about the president's mental acuity. My point was that he was exhausted from travel and sick and overly focused on foreign affairs and detached from domestic policy. He says that Biden wasn't in the flow on the arguments of the campaign and was focused on Ukraine and Israel. I am not sure that is the defense that he thinks it is.
And here's the bottom line, having nothing to do with the excerpt. That special counsel who interviewed President Biden about why he had the files in his garage, I mean, his ultimate conclusion was basically Biden wasn't up, like he shouldn't be prosecuted out of sympathy. He's an elderly man. He's an elderly man who has a very bad memory and doesn't remember anything that happened.
Ashley, do you feel lied to?
Yeah, I do. I hadn't been around the president before that debate, and I worked for Joe Biden, and if the people around him knew that he was not capable, it is unacceptable to me that they allowed him to go onto that stage. I deserve better as a voter, not even as a Democrat, as a voter and as an American. I do.
And I know that Joe Biden is a friend, but in this excerpt, the part about the pool, he went off, this is in the middle of debate prep, went off to the pool and he took a nap. And that was before the biggest debate of this campaign. That's not even the governance of the country. So Joe Biden, maybe he has the best intentions. I'm sure that you believe that. But the right decision, it seems pretty unequivocally, is that he should not have run for re-election.
Look, I was also just texting with Ron Klain, and who vehemently says he was taken out of context. I'll tell you my experience, which is what I can talk about. I've known Joe Biden for over 25 years. Certainly, the Joe Biden today is not the Joe Biden of 5 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 25 years ago. It's not. But also, I will tell you, and I think that comes out also in the book and the excerpt that I read, something clearly happened that day, around those days, that was not the case the day after. I saw Joe Biden 24 hours after that debate here in New York. He was a completely different person. I saw Joe Biden when he came to The View after he dropped out, and he was a completely different person than what we saw at that debate. What happened around those days? I don't know. And can I tell you something? I don't care, because I want to talk about the future and how we fight Donald Trump and how we get rid of Donald Trump.
He was not a completely different person. He did the Stephanopoulos debate interview to try to save him. He did your show to try to save him. He just, look, he's the guy's in his mid-80s. I'm not faulting him. He just wasn't the Joe Biden who was elected 4 years before.
He wasn't the one.
And his family should have pulled the plug.
I said that.
Well, they
His
should
own
have,
family
and so
should have
should
pulled
his
the plug.
advisors. I mean, talk about a big cover-up. I mean, we've been talking a lot about Donald Trump lately. I just want to ask a simple question. Who in the heck was running the country? If the president's mental acuity was in question and some days he's on and some days he's off, was the guy really capable of doing the job day to day? I honestly really question that. And I think a lot of Democrats who said at the time, oh, Joe Biden is the fittest guy in the world. He could do backflips. He could jump into the pool, run marathons, do 100 push-ups. When every freaking person who saw Joe Biden said, there's no in hell this guy is physically fit. But they told us, don't believe your lying eyes because we're with him every single day. That wasn't true.
One more piece,
it wasn't true.
Just so people understand the other part of this. Ron Klain was talking about how Joe Biden seemed obsessed with what the world thought of him. Klain wondered, half seriously, according to the book, if Biden thought he was president of NATO instead of the U.S. Quote, he just became very very enraptured with being the head of NATO. That wouldn't help him on Capitol Hill because, as Klain noted, domestic political leaders do not care what Macron and Schultz think. And he was running for re-election.
Here's what I will say. I try and be an honest broker when I talk about things on this show. And I do think that that does not always happen with other guests. What we are
Present
learning...
company excluded, right?
Present company.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure.
What we are hearing right now is unacceptable to me, and I am a Democrat. And I think in order for this country to get back on the right track, when things like this are exposed, we have to call balls and strikes right and wrong. That night of the debate was terrifying for many, many reasons. It was scary. It hurt my heart, but it was very clear that that might not have been the first time. And I find that unacceptable. I would find that unacceptable in a Trump administration, in an Obama administration, in a Bush administration, and in a Biden administration.
Why do you
All right,
think
we
that
gotta
it wasn't
leave
the
it there.
first time?
We really have to leave it there.
Because you don't just fall off the cliff that quickly. It's a slow
don't.
decline.